Oh boy. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. So Lynn Haven, the city of Lynn Haven, is due for another city council meeting. You remember the disaster at the last city council meeting in Lynn Haven, where only one out of the 5 members, uh, Jamie Warwick, is saying, the police chief, maybe we should take action on the police chief, right? There's a video hit and run video of him committing a crime for which he was arrested by the FHP. Bernie, it was only an administrative arrest. He wasn't cuffed and stuffed. Okay. But that's not the only thing he's done. Like, there are public records of stuff he's done that are mind-blowing. Aside from false arrests. I mean, there are 412 cities in Florida. One city has a police chief who had to turn in his badge and turn in his gun. He didn't even get to keep one bullet. They're all turned over to the city manager, Vicky Gaynor. Anyway, at the last meeting, the mayor had enough. Okay. Jesse Nelson was tired of having to defend Ricky Ramie, and he said he's going to wait for the evidence. So guess what? Today, or I don't know if it was today, but I got it today. James Finch, remember him? The Citizen of the Year a few times in Lynn Haven. The guy who got railroaded by Sheriff Tommy Ford, along with the real mayor, Margot Anderson, so that Sheriff Ford and his people could install Jesse Nelson and protect Ricky Ramie, who was involved in the persecution of Margot Anderson. I mean, it's hard to believe. It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy saying it. Anyway, you remember Mayor Nelson at the last meeting got mad, and he said, remember he talked all quiet. Hey, by the way, the next time Jesse Nelson tries, just thinking of this dude makes me laugh. The next time he tries to gaslight you and talks real quiet, calm down. Don't get mad and start huffing and puffing because he loves it, okay? Just the guy's a clown. He's an absolute joke. I mean, they're defending a police chief. You're going to see these public records tonight. They're a joke. It's just more people need to know this stuff. And real people have been hurt bad by these people. Bad. So I'm going to show you James Finch wrote a letter to the commission, and he supplied attachments. And these attachments are public records of text messages and stuff from when they try. Oh my God, the stories. You remember they said James, and the only problem was there was no quid pro quo, and every job that Finch got from the city was a unanimous vote because he had saved the city a bunch of money and lent the city a bunch of money. He loaned the city a ton of money and gave them a sweetheart deal. They don't have to pay him back for a long time. I mean, it's unbelievable what they did over there. But you got to hear this. I should have had it in my hands. It's sitting over here. The U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision just a couple of weeks ago regarding the kind of bribe that the sheriff, Tommy Ford, and the FBI and the Justice Department accused both Mayor Anderson and James Finch of doing. There was no quid pro quo. There was only a wink and a nod. The last remaining charge against Mayor Margot Anderson was the type of bribe where there's no quid pro quo. The federal prosecutors said that a wink and a nod was enough. It was also the last remaining charge for James Finch, for which he faced trial twice. It's called believe it or not, a 666. No shit. 666 violation, where it's a it's a bribe, but there's no quid pro quo. There's no evidence, just a wink and a nod. Now, throughout the United States, half of the U.S. districts, we're in District 11. I believe it's 11. The 11th Circuit. The 11th District, I think. I think it's the 11th District, right? There are, I forget how many, 12 or so, a dozen or so across the United States. Half of the districts in the United States, the federal districts, said, no, you don't charge anybody on a wink and a nod. But half of the country did. And we happen to be in that half. If their trials, if their charges had been done today, they could not have been charged on this. The Supreme Court issued a decision saying, no, you can't charge an official on a wink and a nod. You have to have, what's the word? I'm thinking of a word. Evidence. That happened. So in that trial, in the cases against Margo Anderson and James Finch, oh man, it's crazy as hell. Well, when they were, getting evidence to defend themselves, they came across all of these text messages to and from Ricky Ramie, the chief of police, right after Hurricane Michael. And Michael White, the city manager, who was in federal prison for all the stuff that he did, that he really did. They used to be bros. They call each other bro, love you, bro, all the time in these text messages. And they would send each other these vulgar text messages, racist, vulgar text messages. There are text messages. I hate to have to bring this up, but it's public record and it has to be brought up. I don't bring these things up. There's plenty of other things. Evidently, a crime is not enough to get a police chief removed when Sheriff Tommy Ford is his friend. Sheriff Tommy Ford, understand, is the chairman of the Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission in Florida. And he's got all this evidence. He has all this evidence. He claims, Sheriff Ford, that he's the one who got the evidence out of the phone of Michael White. Sheriff Ford knows about all of this that I'm going to show you, but he still protects and defends his friend, Ricky Ramie. So crazy. So you're going to see a lot of this tonight. All right, I'm going to show you the letter that James Finch wrote to the commission, which is having their meeting tomorrow. It's supposed to be on Tuesday, but they want to hurry up and get it. Hey, somebody tell me what time the Lynn Haven commission meeting is tomorrow. It's normally on Tuesdays, but they're sneaking it in tomorrow. And I don't know what the reasoning is, but I have a feeling I know what the reason is. Because Jesse Nelson, the mayor, had a complete meltdown at the last one. Unbelievable meltdown. Now, what will the other commissioners do? What will Sam Peebles do? What will Pat Perno do? And what will they do, all these commissioners, now that they're going to have? They pretended they didn't know about this stuff. All right, I'm going to show you all this. But it is election season. August is the election for county commission, sheriff, and state attorney, the top prosecutor. And in the county commission race, Tommy Ham, it wants a third term, but there is a much better choice than Tommy Ham. And Ron Keel is having an event this weekend. And I want to play this paid political ad so you can get to know Ron Keel running for commissioner.
Come join us on Tuesday, July 16th at the Duplin Winery, located on Back Beach Road, Panama City Beach. Open bar, music, and conversation. Event starts at 6 p.m. and will end at 8 p.m. Minimum donation of $20. Donation waived for military, first responders, and teachers. So break out your summer cocktail attire and bring the family as we support Ron Keel, your future District 1 County Commissioner.
I said this weekend. It is Tuesday. After this weekend. All right. You ready for this? Let's take a look first at the letter that James Finch has sent to each commissioner and the mayor, Jesse Nelson. Here's the letter. I'm going to read it to you, but feel free to watch it again, screenshot it, whatever. Or go to, of course, the Beacon of Bay County on Facebook. I know that they, again, have posted all of this far before I've gotten around to it. So you can see it at the Beacon of Bay County on Facebook as well. Dear Mayor, writes James Finch, your last meeting was an embarrassment to the city of Lynn Haven. It was about your police chief, as were all the commission meetings for the past 6 months. The city manager has twice hired attorneys to interfere with the decision that the commission will have to make. You ultimately, Mayor, chose to make the meeting about you, which is where the embarrassment really kicked in, says James Finch. You should watch the video of the meeting a few times. You even thought you were a handsome man. As mayor, you should look to the future of the city. If you don't remember, Jesse Nelson got so flustered, the mayor, at the last meeting that he was talking about, I'm actually a handsome man. It was craziest thing I've ever seen, but maybe not ever, but yeah, that's what he's referring to here, James Finch. You even thought you were a handsome man. All right. But as mayor, you should look to the future of the city. There are several lawsuits that are going to pose some serious problems, and you could cost the city big dollars. You should see if there's any common cause for these lawsuits. How many lawsuits did you have before Vicky and Ricky were running things? And how many do you have now? This should open a handsome man's eyes, says James Finch. There have been criminal acts committed by city employees. Unauthorized building permits were issued by the police chief and city manager. There have been cases of false arrest and multiple charges dropped by the state attorney in cases that they would not accept from the city's police department. There was a code enforcement officer that was fired by Ramie, who now has a lawsuit against the city. The building official was fired and arrested by Vicky and Ricky because he refused to work for Vicky on problems with her personal home. She had an independent inspector that had problems with the construction, and she wanted the building official to override his authority, resulting in yet another lawsuit against the city. All of this will come out in depositions, says James Finch. Vicky Gaynor is protecting Ramie, and I am sure she has a good reason. So much went wrong during the corruption. The city's outside accountant, Jay Moody, advised the city not to pay any part of the $4.9 million without backup invoices to justify the payment. Michael White gets up from the meeting and pays a $1.2 million invoice and has the check processed within an hour. No one at the city went to the commission and said, hey, we're on a runaway train. Vicky was employed during the time the invoice discrepancies took place. Take some time, says James Finch, to get familiar with all of this, as the lawsuits will soon show the truth. The problem will not go away. It must be addressed. Now, James Finch also included some attachments to the letter. Let's see what those are. All right. Context for the attachments outlining major mistakes by Chief Ramie. These items continue to be overlooked by you and the commission. 1, fixing tickets by Chief Ramie. 2, setting up people to be arrested for the city manager, Vicky Gaynor. 3, it's amazing. Sheriff Ford says all this is cool in the gang. Is that nuts? Taking a firearm out of evidence to give to Michael White. This is the same gun that Michael White used in a domestic dispute where he put the gun to his wife's head and then put it in his own mouth. Now, I was at the trial when Michael White testified against James Finch last year. And Michael White, the former city manager, was in prison garb. He had to come out of prison. That was their only witness, the chief witness, the main witness was in prison garb, Michael White. It was crazy. He had handcuffs on. He had to drink. Man, the only time I felt sorry for Michael, he had to drink water like this because his hands were cut. and he was testifying and still lying. And the jury was like, that's your best witness? And when they asked him about the gun, when he was on the witness stand, you know what he told the jury, Michael White? It wasn't loaded. You should have seen the jury's faces. So anyway, the gun is one of the attachments that he's put. Another one, a sitting commission hides the manager's wife from him. A sitting commission hides the manager's wife from him. This was back after the hurricane. All right. Dan Russell's who they're talking about. Calls Chief Ramie after Michael White put the gun to his wife's head. And the commissioner was hiding the city manager after he did that. Calls Chief Ramie. They're trying to, how do we fix this? How do we fix this, bro? Who tries to keep this from the commission but is unsuccessful. The city manager's then arrested by the sheriff's office. The city commission then negotiates a settlement with the city manager when he should have been fired on the spot. This shows weakness in the commission. During the middle of all this corruption, right after Hurricane Michael, or this would have been, let me think here. Yeah, right after Hurricane Michael. And stealing $4.9 million from the city, Ricky Ramie agrees to hold a bag of cash of the city manager. So we don't know. Some in the trial, some people said it was $5,000, but they told the FBI it was $35,000 of cash that Ricky, in a sack of cash that Ricky Ramie was holding, given to him by Michael White, just holding it. I didn't touch it. I didn't even count it. He turned into Kenny. Who sings the song? Kenny. How come I can't? By the way, please write down in the comments what time the Lynn Haven the city commission is tomorrow. Kenny Rogers, no one to hold him. He said he didn't even count the money. I just looked at it, said Ricky Ramie to the judge. Gosh. Oof. Ricky Ramie was so mad after he got questioned on the stand in front of federal judge Mark Walker that a few days later he came home and he arrested James Finch's wife, said she had cocaine. It was all a lie. After Larry Bassford, the prosecutor, the state attorney, after he tormented Finch's wife for many months, they finally said, well, there's really nothing here. And they dropped it. But it was just about tormenting. You don't ask us those kind of questions. Well, James Finch did. James Finch was found not guilty, and now James Finch wants the truth to come out. And this letter is what he sent. So, by the way, it was probably $173,000 in that sack. That's what Mickey White said. $173,000. Maybe by the time it got to Ramie, there was only $35,000 cash in the sack. This is crazy. And Sheriff Ford thinks it's cool in the gang. He says it's all right. Chief Ramie's my friend. Should have seen it. You should have been there. Ricky answers, let's see. Yeah. Ricky answers yes on his text messages to the city manager when asked, are we still having our naked pool party? So, okay, I have to explain this to you. Remember, right after Hurricane Michael, Lynn Haven was wiped out. So there were these condos that were kind enough to say, hey, we're going to try to house some people. Now, Sheriff Ford and his public trust unit and the FBI, they said that right after the hurricane, Mayor Margot Anderson was floating in the Keys on James Finch's yacht. She didn't even care about the people. That was told to a grand jury. So it's Sheriff Ford told the FBI, and the FBI told the grand jury. But there was a problem with that. And the problem was James Finch didn't have a yacht. And it never happened. Little stuff like that. But what was really happening right after the hurricane while Mayor Anderson was riding around through the rubble, bringing water to people. Well, during those times, it was kind of hot outside, and the condos were being stayed in by Chief Ricky Ramie. You had Michael White. You had a bunch of city officials who were staying in these condos. Now, it was too tempting to have these nice condos. I mean, who wants to sit around in torn apart houses with grouchy folks, you know? So they would sneak away and evidently, according to their text messages, have naked pool parties. You know, when in Rome. When you got these nice condos, these resorts, and grouchy people all around the place, you do what you can, right? Keep your sanity. I'm not one to judge. I'm a libertarian. All right, I'm gonna have to get serious because you're gonna have to see these. Let's get through the rest of this. That's what they're talking about. That's what he's talking about with these attachments. All right, the naked pool parties. Yeah. Ricky answers yes on his text messages to the city manager. See, Michael White texted Ricky Ramie, said, "Are we still having our naked pool party? My wife wants to know if there's any underwear sharks." And Chief Ramie says, "No, maybe there's some underwater suckers." Although, the wives are coming. She said. Now, Ricky loses his new best friend, Michael White, when he's arrested after pointing the gun that Ricky Ramie gave him to the head of his wife. And he gets a new best friend, Vicky Gaynor, right? Always his boss is his best friend. She says hiring Michael White was this is what she told Judge Walker. Vicky Gaynor said, hiring Michael White was the best thing the city had ever done. She was asked in court, do you think you're a good judge of character? She said, yes. And the next question was, do you know how much money he stole? Her answer was, yes, about $5 million. That really happened. I was there. Here's the rest of the attachment. The city asked me to meet about the police department. So the city wanted the city wanted James Finch to build a new city hall, a Taj Mahal, with a $400,000 kitchen. James Finch said, are you nuts? I'll build you a new city hall, but I'm not building a Taj Mahal. What are you guys doing? They put a wire, the FBI put a wire on Ricky Gaynor. On Ricky Ramie, Chief Ramie. Ramie was getting ready to walk into the meeting. He's going, can you hear me? FBI, can you hear me? Yeah, we got you. And then he went in to catch James Finch and Mayor Anderson talking to them about trying to break laws or bribe people or steal or, I don't know, book the pool and have their own naked pool. I don't know what they were trying to catch them doing, but the problem is the secret microphone that Ricky Ramie was wearing for the FBI only caught James Finch and Margot Anderson, the mayor of Lynn Haven, trying to save the city money and saying, what in the hell are you talking about? $400,000 kitchen in City Hall? What Finch was offering was 4 times less than they planned, like a normal city hall. So James Finch ends his letter to the commission, says, I did something that went directly against what they wanted. Letter to, I guess, to the mayor, but it's CC'd to all of them. I came to the commission meeting and told the commission that I was withdrawing my proposal for the new Taj Mahal. I did not want anything to do with the building. I realized their plan was to have me charged with corruption. Lastly, if this is not enough, Mayor, consider your chief law enforcement officer promoting his dildo, nicknamed Goose, on social media. How is that for integrity? All right. Now, do you want to know how these public records came out? Like, how did they come to be? Well, I'm gonna I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to show you right after this.
Strong, effective leadership. 3 words that could mean the difference between prison and your freedom. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. So, okay. So, James Finch sent an email also to Mayor Jesse Nelson, the Doctor of Leadership, and he got a reply back, because one thing Jesse Nelson likes to do is he'll always write back with a question, right? I don't see any attachments. Whatever, he's always got a question. Like, so this was Finch's response. Finch says, Mayor, I did not initially send the pictures or text, as they are a complete disgrace at best. This is James Finch to Mayor Nelson. However, per your request, I have attached them now. These are just a few of them, though. If you'd like more, I'd be happy to send them for your review. They thought Finch was going to be in prison. They thought Finch was going to be dead. They didn't know that Finch was still going to be around. Found not guilty, 2 trials because they lied about him. Charged him with a charge that the Supreme Court 2 weeks ago said you can no longer charge people with. Bribery needs quid pro quo. It needs evidence. A wink and a nod is not enough, despite what Sheriff Ford says. Is that crazy? So James Finch said, I'd be happy to send you more of what you're about to see. Your city manager, police chief, and city engineer, Chris Forehand, have lied about my involvement and complained about me using court records, which is where these things come from. The court. See, Finch is now suing Chris Forehand and Vicky Gaynor, and will be suing the city of Lynn Haven, among others, I suppose. And so Chris Forehand also is loaded, right? Got a bunch of taxpayer money, heaps of millions. And he's got some fancy attorneys, and they argued, hey, you can't be using evidence used in your defense. You can't do that. And so the Justice Department contacted Finch's lawyer and said, you can't use those. All those text messages that you used in your defense, you can't use that. That belongs to us. That is our property, said the Justice Department. They're public records. They were filed. They're public records. They were filed. So Finch's attorney filed a motion. Said, Your Honor, Chief Judge Mark Walker, these are public records filed in the court. I know that we realize that you at one time had put a protective order on them to protect the integrity of the trial. But that's lifted. But that was at another time. And besides that, the trial's over. The case is over. Are these really the Justice Department's private stuff? Or are these public records? What do you think Judge Mark Walker said? Here's what he said. Order granting defendant's motion to modify. So Chris Forehand was unable to stop James Finch from getting the public records that proved he was not guilty. And now he's showing the world what they were doing in Lynn Haven after the hurricane. This is incredible. All right, here's what Judge Mark Walker says. This court has, because remember, Chris Forehand's getting sued, said you can't use that stuff. You can't use that stuff. And his friends at the Justice Department said you can't use it. It belongs to us, right? So Finch files a motion. And Judge Walker says this court has considered without hearing, didn't even need a hearing, Finch's motion to modify the protective order, and it's to be granted. Finch asks this court to lift a protective order as to any and all discovery items and materials made public record by either introduction into the jury trials or unsealed by this court's previous orders. Finch reasons that the protective order is no longer necessary to protect the integrity of the process, at least to the public materials, because, well, the materials are publicly available. Now, Chris Forehand and his friends at the Justice Department, they contend that Finch is just using these publicized materials to attack witnesses, which is prejudicial to the administration of justice. You can't use this stuff we were going to put you in prison with in a civil lawsuit. That's an attack on us, says Chris Forehand. I am telling you, do you not know this stuff? I thought Finch did some of this stuff because I'd been told by Sheriff Ford's public trust unit, by his top guys, that the evidence was overwhelming. Wait till you see the evidence against Margot Anderson and James Finch, I was told. And so when Mayor Anderson said, Bernie, you really need to look at this, I didn't want to. First of all, I'd never met Finch. I just heard about him. His legend precedes him. And quite frankly, I didn't want to meet him. I thought he was going to be pissed at me. I was scared. What's he going to do? Is he going to send somebody to break some legs, or what's he going to do? Do you know what he did when I met him? This is so classic Finch now that I know him. I asked him what he thought about what I'd been saying when I was wrong, because I was listening to Sheriff Ford and them. And Finch didn't know what I was talking about. He had never really heard of me. I thought he was going to be upset with me. He said, I don't know what you said. I don't keep up with that. I said, oh, good. And then I looked at it. I said, that's complicated. Firsthand, complexity masks fraud. And the complexity was coming from the government side, from Sheriff Ford's side. No wonder it was so complex. There was a hell of a lot of fraud on their side. I couldn't believe it. All 79 charges, federal charges against Finch and Anderson, were complete and utter bullshit. I couldn't believe it. And now the sheriff's office is so mad at me, they surrounded my home. You just follow me home all the time. It's crazy. Where was I? Okay, let's get back to where we were. It's mind-blowing, the protective order. Okay, so Finch's email. He says, you're to the mayor. Remember the meeting, the city commission meetings tomorrow. Your city manager, police chief, and engineer have all lied about my involvement, complained about me using court records to the court, tried to have me found guilty for interfering with the prosecution. Therefore, I also attached the motion that I filed with the court to lift the protective order on me, which was granted against their efforts. So basically, the mayor may be a handsome guy, but the truth is coming out. So many lawsuits. I have heard that there have been more than 50 lawsuits against Sheriff Tommy Ford, and you won't believe how much it's cost. That might explain why they've been tremendously over budget. There are currently, I believe, more than 20 lawsuits against Sheriff Ford, and probably a quarter of them are from his own investigators and deputies, whistleblowers. Do you think it's going to get better or worse? They say, for who? There's so many. It's gone on so long that it's like there's a big boat, a big protection racket boat. And all these guys have been in this boat laughing and having naked pool parties with these dildos you're going to read about and sucker fish. That's what they call the wives. That's what they call the wives. Now, but the boat, this protection boat's getting a bunch of holes in it, right? And they don't have enough fingers and toes and dildos to plug the holes. The water's spraying up. It's water spraying up. I could go on and on, but I need to get serious about that. I mean, there's too many people who are coming under oath to tell the truth. I don't know what's going to happen, but you can't stop it now. There are too many lawsuits. If I stopped doing the show, you'd still find out. If 5 of the lawsuits canceled, you'd still find out. There's too many people who know about it, and there's too much evidence coming out that they can't hide anymore. And it's terrible. It's terrible. All right, so let's take a look at I'm going to show you 4 examples that Finch submitted. These are now public records, so you can make a public record request to the city of Lynn Haven. All you do is send an email to Vicky Gaynor, the city manager. That's all you do. In the subject line, you put public record request, and you specifically ask for these. And by law, they have to give them to you. These are public records now. So I'm not going to show you the actual images. You're going to have to, maybe they're shown on the Beacon and Bay County's page. Check the Beacon and Bay County's page. I am not showing them here. I'm just not going to do it here. But this is what they are. Michael White sends image to Ricky Ramie, chief of police, of little African-American girl with a popsicle shaped like a penis saying, "Mom, this popsicle tastes like shrimp." That's what Michael White sent to Chief Ramie. And then Ramie reads the text image and 1 minute later tells Michael White to check his messenger. All right, this was right before Hurricane Michael. They were bros. This one's after Hurricane Michael. Michael White, this is when they had these condos after the hurricane. Later on, they claimed that Mayor Anderson was floating around on a yacht in the Keys, this is what the sheriff's department told the FBI. The FBI told the grand jury, and it was all a lie. Finch didn't have a yacht, and they weren't down there. It was all a lie. They just told the grand jury. I laugh because it's unbelievable. But what was really happening after the hurricane, while people were suffering in Lynn Haven, is Michael White and Chief Ramie, they couldn't stay away from these condos that they got. And so Michael White texts Ricky Ramie, Chief Ramie, assistant chief at the time. The chief of police was Matt Raymer at the time. And asks if the naked pool party is on. And Chief Ramie said, yeah. And there was a joke about one of the wives didn't want to go if there were going to be sharks. And they said, no, only suckerfish. Get it? Suckerfish. All right, here's another one. These actual text messages are included in the public records you can get from Lynn Haven, though. So then there's one where Michael White, the city manager at the time, who's in prison, sends an image to Chief Ramie of an older guy with his balls hanging out of his shorts. See, and this was before Hurricane Michael, so maybe there wasn't as much to do. And then an image of a young African-American guy, quote, "You make me moist," to which Chief Ramie replies, "I puked in my mouth." These guys are so silly, aren't they? Bros, man, bros. Bros act so goofy sometimes, Locker room talk. Here's another one. This is before Hurricane Michael. Michael White and Lynn Haven Police Department. Again, he would have been assistant police chief at the time. Discussed fixing a ticket for a friend of Dan Russell and this person whose name is there. I guess is related to CFO Jimmy Petronas by marriage, it looks like. And I mean, this is not the bad stuff, by the way. I've seen it all. It looks like It looks like James Finch just sort of sent them a few examples as sort of an appetizer, because the entree's hot. Crazy as hell, isn't it? The meeting is tomorrow. What's going to happen now? Are they going to pretend that these public records don't exist?
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
Crazy stuff. Hey, I want to thank those of you who support my efforts. It means so much to me. By being a patron with throwing a tip in the tip jar, really is what it's like. As little as $5 a month, this crowdfunding, without it, I couldn't do this. And so thank you to those of you who do. And you can become a patron at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's anonymous. It's easy. And you can quit at any time. And of course, thank you to the Unknown Patriot, another sponsor of the show, helping me to do my best to bring you the truth. Let me see if you've put down what time the meeting is tomorrow, because I want to make sure that people know about it. Did nobody put the time down? Come on, somebody had to have put the time down. I just don't see it. What time is the meeting tomorrow? The Lynn Haven City Commission meeting. Gosh, really? Nobody did? How are we going to get anything done? Some good comments, so I can't wait to read through these. All right, I'm not going to leave at 9 a.m. Thank you, Jody Moore, Beacon of Bay County. 9 a.m. tomorrow. They've moved. They've tried to sneak in the city commission meeting because Mayor Nelson says, he just wants more community involvement. And then they just sneak a meeting in at a weird time. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Lynn Haven, right on the heels of all these public records that are coming out. It's not just a criminal hit and run on video by the chief of police. It's a whole lot more. I mean, it's what you'd call, I think, they call it a trend.